Hey guys, it's been a while, Batswadi. Welcome to it. I'm very excited for the series of IG Lives that we're going to be having over the next 4 weeks. And I'm just kind of feeling like when it comes to parenting, the subjects of things to talk about do not end. So I'm quite excited for this series. And if you head over to obviously the Instagram, you can see all the different topics that we're going to be covering over the next 4 weeks. And it's going to be beautiful. For today, we are though talking it can be quite sensitive, it can be quite difficult. And we're talking blended families. Please, as a disclaimer, don't mind me if you see me talking to someone else. I literally was about to start charging my phone and then I broke my charger. So I just asked my Baba's nanny to grab my charger, but we're still good with battery life for now. So yeah, welcome to it. The guest that we're going to have joining us is Lynn Forbes. Some of you know her as Glammy. And she's been, very public just in terms of speaking about her various family dynamics. And it obviously makes complete sense to have this conversation with someone like her. And what I hope to get out of the conversation today is really delve deep into where that foundation came from of believing in blended families, where she found, all of those tools to do what she does. And also I'm curious to find out about any of the things that you guys don't actually see in public spaces. I mean, we only really see the few things that we see. It's curated content, but there's so many things that happen behind the scenes. So let us welcome, ladies and gentlemen, parents to be, the formidable, the awesome Lynn Forbes. Welcome.
Hi, let me just adjust this a bit. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, and you?
A little bit red.
I see. Is it the sun or is it like what's going on?
No, I've had a peel. I'm trying to manage my pigmentation, so we're a bit red, but we're good. We're here. Huh?
I saw. Like, good luck on that journey. I feel like skin is its whole own full conversation. Yes, really a whole nother another story. But I'm so excited that we get to talk because, this conversation of blended families, I think people take for granted of how big the conversation really is. And there's so many elements and dynamics that it's not just about asking a person, oh, would you date somebody who's got a child? Like, it's not just about that. So I thought let's take it all the way back to Lynn, the child, because you're also someone's child, Did you grow up in an environment where non-immediate family members were treated like immediate family in the home? Those that some might consider as outsiders or step or half anything.
Interestingly enough, I didn't grow up in any kind of blended family situation. So there's been the cousins, the actual cousins, and my mother's children, sister's children, and those were big families. So we had big extended families, but not really blended in the sense that we think of blended families. So that wasn't there, but I think where the stem from, and I'm sure you get into that question, it stems back to my mom's teaching. So that is actually where I've learned about accepting. It's really about my mom never kind of labeling in-laws. My mother, we were 4 girls and we are 4 girls and 2 boys, and the moment we got married or the moment there were boyfriends or girlfriends, my mother has always treated everybody as her children. And that's where I get it from.
Yeah.
There's never been in-laws. In-laws didn't exist for us in our family.
Yes, it was family. As you're saying that, I'm thinking about you know, my uncles and aunts, they have ex-wives that's still my aunt. You know what I mean? That
Exactly.
or ex-husbands that's
Yeah.
still that person. And I kind of, I mean, let me know, Lynn, do you feel like your mom having those principles and values was something that was out of the ordinary, or do you feel like it was quite common practice back then?
Look, I have never thought of it as out of the ordinary because that's all I knew.
Yeah.
You know, for instance, I mean, I look at myself. I'm the only sibling in our family that got divorced at some point. But my ex-husband is now remarried with his own other child. But my mother still sees him as a son. And it's never been
Yes.
strange to me. And I think, and therefore, what I and how I see blended families, it's never been I have to think about it. It's just a natural progression. It's something that I just live because I was modeled that kind of behavior. I've never
Yes.
seen it
Yes.
as, so therefore, I think now when people question it with me, I'm like, but why would you question that? It's what it should be, you know?
Yes. So I like that you mentioned that, you know, you actually have an ex-husband.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the fact that the two of you together had two kids. I know the one that's spoken about the most publicly is Keenan, who we all know as
Yeah.
AKA. But you
Yeah.
have another child.
Stefan, yes,
Yes.
Stefan. So I've got two. I have two boys. Kenan is obviously the older one, and then Stefan is about 4 years younger than Kenan. He's going to be 30 this year, and those are my actual children,
Yes.
the ones that I didn't just gather along the way,
Along the way, picking up.
picking them
And
up.
I'm thinking then, when you got divorced, were
Yeah.
there ever feelings in you that you were like, I don't want this person near my family? Was that ever even a thought to you? Because human nature is such a way that, yes, we raised with certain values and principles, but like we also have like childish emotions that creep in now and then. Did you ever
Yeah.
have those moments where you were like, oh, I hope he's not inviting his father, or, you
No.
know, I hope my mom does not bring this man back to this event?
No, absolutely, absolutely never. So for me, it was always very important. You see, the thing with me is children are always the focus for me. And in families, and I think that's how I manage blended families, because the children are the most important and where I put my focus and energy into. Because you know the saying that any parent is as unhappy as their most no as is as happy as their most unhappy child, you know,
Yes.
and that's for me is the thing. So no, I've never, for me it was always, for both of us, for Tony, so my ex-husband is Tony, my children's father, and Tony and I had our differences, and those differences we discussed, and we tried to always keep that as our adult, you know, adults are full of nonsense. We, you know, the stuff that we have to sort out here, it had nothing to do with the children. And you do not use your children as pawns to, you know, say, oh, well, this is how I'm going to get back. Children cannot become that. And we have made that very clear from the beginning, that our children will always be our main priority and our main focus. So we've never had issues. Obviously, we had issues with ourselves, and, you know, but the children never became the pawn, or the tool to use against each other. And I think that's
So
how
they never had to suffer
no,
unnecessarily because of
no,
issues that were happening at the adult level, which
yeah,
is the way it's supposed to be.
yeah,
I mean, I'm sure many people or children of divorce, or even just difficult children of difficult marriages, can talk about how a parent influenced a child to feel
yeah,
a certain way, which may have
yeah,
alienated another parent and that kind of thing. So
absolutely,
I love that you were sharing how that was never a thing, because the key
yeah.
goal in mind was the
The
children of the
well-being of the
parent.
children. Look, I mean, obviously, children of divorce always suffer in some way or the other. So even if the parents get along really well and the parents do focus on the children, the fact that two parents are getting divorced creates stress. And, you know, but I mean, it just makes it so much worse if the parents then still use those children as their, their bargaining tool or whatever it is, or trying to keep them away from seeing their parents, or now the dad has a new girlfriend or the mother has a new partner, and now you're not supposed to go there because now my child is not going to be with your new, oh my gosh, So we didn't have that. Our children knew that they could go there and enjoy their time with their dad and his new wife or his new, and come home and be able to tell me, oh, she is such a much better cook than you are. Because I don't like being in the kitchen, but she loves baking. And, she loves, and I encouraged that because I didn't want my kids to ever come home and feel, I can't tell mom that we had such a great time there,
And you can imagine how, the kids start falling in love with their stepmom, but then they it's riddled with guilt that it's like, oh, I'm betraying my mom, but it should never be that. So on that note, I mean, were you able at some point to try and forge any kind of relationship with the stepmother of your kids? And if you did, how did you do it? Because I think many women, and it's so bad that they've labeled it as like baby mama drama, because in that scenario where your ex-husband has a new wife, you're just the baby mama, you the ex, and then you already have all these negative things laid on you. So how did you deal with it, and how were you able to try and start nurturing some kind of relationship?
So I think, and again, I'll always say, it's never just plain sailing and smooth sailing. There's work involved and there's understanding involved, because also the understanding must be that we all come from different families. She comes from a different family, he comes, I come. But again, for me, it's always going to be what is best for the children. So even if there's a little bit of uncertainty around how to deal with it, the focus for me has always been, I just need to do what's best for my children. And then when they had a child, what is best for these now new siblings? Because now my children have a new sibling, right? And how do you navigate that? And I think for me, it's always been to, I have just always remained the same. And I think what it comes down to is respect and boundaries, in terms of, because now, as much as I need to talk to my ex-husband about the raising of my children and what needs to be done, you also want to be respectful of the fact that there's now somebody else in their life. So you don't want to be overbearing. You don't want to be in their lives all the time.
Or overstepping certain boundaries.
Don't overstep your boundaries. Contact him when you need to talk to him about the children.
Don't call at 2 a.m. because you're,
exactly.
like, come on. Unless it's an emergency, don't call at 2 a.m.
Exactly. And I think so. What I believe is that for me, I operate from a place I believe I operate from a place of love, and that over time shows, and I operate from a place of good intention. So if you work with good intention, at some point people realize that even in the beginning they might be not sure what's going on and what is this person's intention, but once they understand where you're coming from and what you're trying to establish, and you are good to their children, they return the favor. And at some point you find a place, you find a common place where you can work from. And again, it's never without some hiccups along the way, but you have to persevere.
Because at the end of the day, you share one thing in common, is that you have children who are siblings. And at some point, the kids, let's assume they're small and they need adult supervision, is that they would want and need to be together. So if they're going to be together, either at you or at stepmom's house, you have to have a common understanding and agreement as to what are the rules. And how, how are we managing? How do we keep things fair when the two are together? Because they're siblings, but they're living in different homes. But you want to know that I trust you with my child, that you're going to take care of my child and love my child as if they are your own, and vice versa. Because you wouldn't want that if there's one ice cream, it's like, sorry, you're not actually my real child, so I'm giving the ice cream.
I mean, just imagine. Just imagine that. So for me, for instance, I mean, my boys are adults now. I don't prescribe to them. It's now up to them to make sure that they have that relationship. It's not my duty anymore. But there's a granddaughter, there's Cairo. So for me, it is still important. So if I go to Cape Town, because my ex-husband lives in Cape Town with his new family. So if I go to, and they have a daughter that's a year older than Cairo. So if I go to Cape Town and Cairo goes along with me, I would phone and say, we are coming to Cape Town. This is the situation. How can we organize for you guys to see Cairo? And Cairo, I will go there and I will make sure that Cairo goes spend some time with them. And that is all that's important to me, is that Cairo and Sarah, his daughter, gets to spend time together, because now these two children have to grow up together and have some sort of relationship. We don't have to see each other all the time, but in order for them to have a good relationship, they also have to see us having an amicable relationship.
Yes. Because in essence, parenting is not telling your children what to do. It's modeling the behavior that you want them to mimic, because they will mirror whatever it is that you do. And if they see the adults around them getting along, you're normalizing what some people turn into a toxic, immature mess.
Absolutely. And I think that's the thing. I think there's so much that we have been fed and programmed with, that, it's time for us to break all of that. There's so much toxicity around in-laws and blended families and the ex-wife and the new girlfriend. We actually can find a better place to work from.
And did you find... Yes, and did you find that your now ex-in-laws were able to reciprocate the love that you and your family extended?
They love me. I still go to visit them. I mean, if I go to, so my ex-husband's family, sisters, we still see each other as sisters. We still, when I go to Cape Town, we still see each other. We still go for dinner. His mom passed away recently. I was at the funeral. His dad, I still call them mom and dad.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, that foundation already explains so much for us to gain an understanding of how far does blended families go when it comes to you, because the truth is, people are only seeing like this tiny little sneak peek into your life when it comes to blended families.
They think I'm just crazy about Zintle and nothing else happens.
So let's talk about the fact that you have adult kids, right?
Yeah.
The time that Keenan's relationship was public, at a time where his profile was now big enough that people were interested, and he had a girlfriend. That was not his first girlfriend in life, So the girlfriends, what is your principle being with Keenan being your eldest son? Whenever he brought a girl home to be like, Mom, this is so and so, what was your general principle?
Always the same. So for me, it's the same thing again. I want to see my children happy. It's not about me. Their relationships, as much as, I know there's, people out there, and there's this public opinion that, I didn't get along with this one and that one. No, it's actually, it's not like that. For me, when my children are in any kind of relationship, or with anybody, for me, the most important thing is that my child is happy. So I'm not going to prescribe to them who they're supposed to date, what makes me happy, any of that. For me, but there are boundaries for me. For me, well, the first thing is my children have always taken about 6 months to introduce girlfriends to me, because I kind of get attached very quickly to these girls. I kind of adopt them very quickly.
Yes.
So and that's the thing for me. So I don't think there's ever been, there has never been a girl where I thought, well, you're not welcome here, you're not welcome in this home, I would always say to my children, look, I don't always agree with what they're doing, and we are okay with that because we agree to disagree on things, but we have boundaries and we have respect. Okay, so when it comes to relationships for my children, I do not interfere because they're adults. I do not tell them, well, this is not a good situation, well, this is not a good girlfriend. There is no such thing as this is not. I mean, I don't think my kids are ever gonna get together with somebody that's not a good person. They're not raised that way. They would always choose, you know, good girls. So you know, so and that's the thing for me. So I would never go out there and tell them who you should date, or this is not, and this person isn't welcome. I think everybody's always been welcome. I think where there has been a little bit of hiccups is when I do not take kindly to being told by anybody, whether it's my children or their girlfriends, saying, oh, your mom shouldn't be having that relationship with this one or that one, or telling me how I should behave, because now you're overstepping my boundaries.
Yes, yes.
So I don't take kindly to, you know, all I ask in return is to be respected. I just want to be respected as my children's mother, and I want to be, you know, I don't want to have this coming in of tell you know, your mom can't do this and no, now you're overstepping. And that's where there could be a little bit of clashing, not clashing in a clash, but no, okay, I'm not standing for that. But as far as choosing for my children, it's never been something that I've done. And I think, and I believe that I have always treated every girl with the same love and the same respect, but each person is also a different personality. So there's a bit of difference in everybody, but I don't think anybody can accuse me of saying you didn't, you know, treat me as well as you treated this one or that one. And there's always also time, you know, there's time. I believe relationships are things that we build on over time. So you can't come into our lives today and have exactly the same relationship. Like Stefan's girlfriend has been here for over 3 years and Zintle has been over. Relationships we build over time. It's the same as when we're actually in a relationship with a man. You know, it doesn't happen overnight. But I will treat you as family from the beginning. You might not be family yet, but you will be treated like with the same respect as anybody else. There's no ranking of you the better or you here for longer. No, the love is the same. There's always space in my heart for everybody. The problem is that space never sometimes disappears. It stays there for me.
So let's pick up on that. So obviously, you know, very public relationship of Keenan and Zinke. They share a beautiful baby girl, your granddaughter, Cairo. And at some point the relationship was now over and done. Yeah. And they both moved on with their lives. Now, the public obviously hold on to many things, be it the dreams that they have for a couple, the dreams that they have for them individually as public personas. But there's so much happening behind the scenes. Yeah. Now, you and Zinke had developed your own relationship that was separate from the fact that she was introduced to you because of Keenan. And I personally had never found it odd for the simple reason that she is the mother of your grandchild. Absolutely. And if you don't maintain a good relationship with her, not to say you're doing it just because you want access to your grandchild, but if you don't, how are you going to, you know, be able to participate actively in your grandchild's life without it, let's assume the opposite end of the spectrum, having to call Keenan to say, I want to see my baby. And then him having to call Zinke to say, yo, Glammy wants to see the baby. And then she going, I'm not available. Like, all these roundabout calls where now you guys have established your own relationship that went beyond just grandmother to my child and mother of my grandchild.
Yeah. Okay, so, well, let's first start with, I mean, in our situation, Kenan and Zintle, firstly, are extremely busy people. You know, and because of that, I have become very instrumental in Caro's life anyway. So, I mean, it just makes sense for all the organizing we have to do between school and activities and Kenan and Zintle and where, you know, the time they share and all of that. You know, just imagine we didn't get along. Just imagine the drama. Now, and so that's one of the things. But the other thing is that I absolutely love Zintle as my own child. I really do. I adore her. I mean, she's just an amazing human being. And I will never stop that. And I've always made that very clear. She's always going to be part of our lives, not just because she's Kara's mother, but because she is part of this family, you know. But again, you know, I think people just need to understand, and I laugh because you know, when we talk about the public, yes, the public hold on to things that we have long time let go of. I mean, we're way over the Kenan and the Zintle relationship and any of that. I mean, Kenan is now over here, and Zintle has another child, and Bongani is there, and that's a complete new unit of a family. But Caro somehow is also part of that unit, right? Mm. And by default, because Caro is Zintle's child and Asante is Zintle's children, those two people are connected. So where does that leave me? As you said earlier, how can I arrive at Zintle's house and be all over my granddaughter and ignore her new sister?
I mean, and that's the thing, is it's the concept of, because I think it's what Ubuntu has always been. That's always been the culture of most people, not just black people, is that when you say, I'm going to visit Gogo Mang Mang, you already are counting how many children are there. So when you go with a parcel, you're buying for everybody. You're not saying, only my child is there. Or if we went to visit Granny for the holidays and groceries were taken, they were for everybody. So to me, again, it was the most natural thing that you would develop a relationship with Asante, because you're always there because of your granddaughter, who you also participate in, you know, her little Instagram world and her things that she's doing. So why would you arrive and be like, hi, my baby Kara, and then be like,
and then no. but again, and I think, you know, for me, it's just important to always maintain the boundaries, and because now, you know, there was a time when Zintle was not in a relationship, and it was very different. So now she is in a relationship, and as much as I also care, you know, about Bongani and Zintle separately, but there's now them as a couple that I have to respect, and I have to, you know, understand the boundaries about that. So I can't now just, like maybe before I would just, you know, just arrive at any time, whatever. I mean, now you have to be respectful of their private lives. And I think this is what the public obviously doesn't see. You know, it's not like, I laugh because, I mean, people I can remember there was once lots of these comments where, oh, she's trying to get Zintle back for Kenan. Let me tell you, I have no interest for getting back to you. But silly things like that. I mean, we just laugh about it. We just laugh about it.
Let me ask you and be honest. Be honest. Because you obviously love the both of them. Yes. And you know the both of them very well. Would you really want Kenan and Zintle to be back? Be honest. No. Even if it's just a little fantasy. Okay, no. So you wouldn't want them back together. Why wouldn't you want them back together?
Because I think they've tried twice now, you know, and even the second time around, I made it very clear, and I said, you know, I spoke to Zintle, I can remember, and I said to you, you must remember, if you guys get back together, at no point ever do I want to even feel like there was a feeling that I needed you guys to get back together. You need to do what's good in your life. And I think, no, I don't ever think of wanting them back together, because I think they're better apart. They're even better to each other apart, I feel like, because I think if they were supposed to be together, they would have been together.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you don't force things. I've got this thing, if it doesn't flow, let it go. If it doesn't flow, let it go, you know? So I
think it's important that you're getting that out there, because if people are holding on to this thing that you must see, you know, Zintle as the dream Makoti, and you're just
No.
holding on because, but in reality you're like, actually no, that's not what I want.
I just want both of them to be happy. So if Zintle finds her happiness over there, I am truly happy for her. And if Kiernan finds his happiness over here, I'm truly happy for him. And whoever is in his life now or going forward, that person will have their own place in my heart, and they will be loved exactly the same. And they will never feel that Zintle is, oh, she's... No, it will never be a competition with Zintle. Zintle is over there now, and I have
Yes.
my love for her. And whoever else is new, I mean, Stefan has been in a relationship for 3 years, and I absolutely love Brittany. She's like the most amazing person. Nobody really know. I think people do know, but I mean, they don't see that relationship. But Brittany is just everything, And then whatever happens with Kiernan, that person will be, as loved as everybody else.
So
I just know it's a gift, man. I've got this gift for love.
no, which is beautiful. So then let me ask this, because you had the love for Zinke, and any relationship that Keenan has, because of the work that he does, will naturally become public.
Yeah.
So now my question is, did you maintain this principle when he had Bonang in his life, or when he had Anela in his life? Were these things that you are like, I am consistently maintaining this? And
Yes.
then how did you manage that when your relationship with Zinke was also very public, which could, not to say it did, but which could make a person feel otherwise, that's sort of trying to navigate this new space, even if it's just dating?
Yeah.
How did it interfere?
Yeah. Look, we all know that. I think sometimes the interference of the public actually creates more issues than it should. But I mean, that is what is expected if it's public. So I mean, the time with Kiernan and Bonang and how all of that happened obviously played out in the public, like this big thing. And I think a lot of it in terms of our dynamics was fueled by so much that was going on in the public, because it then became important maybe for Kiernan to like, oh mom, you need to tone it down a little bit with Zinle, like, so that, and you know what, I need to
Because of the pressure
yes.
that also
Yes.
he may have been getting to
Absolutely.
be like, are you standing up for your person?
Absolutely. And this is the thing. And in those kind of situations, I do try and accommodate that, but I also don't want to lose myself. So I would, obviously there's boundaries, and I want to respect my children's wishes, and there's a limit to that as well, because certain things I will do, but there's certain things where I don't want to lose who I am, all right, as a person. So when it came to that relationship, there was so much going on, but you know what, at the end of the day, and I could say this because even if Bonang had to tune into this talk right now, she would agree with me. Bonang and I, behind the scenes, were good with each other. I mean, it took a while for us to actually see each other and to get introduced to each other because there was so much drama. But Bonang and I had awesome times together. We really
But
did.
also, I think in fairness as well, is that we can't expect you to be public about a relationship if a person didn't want to be public about that relationship.
Exactly.
Be it Bonang or anybody else. So if anybody else was like, listen, I know that Keenan is posting me, but can we keep what we are doing private?
Yes.
Even if you come and support me somewhere, please don't post about it. And that's the part that the public don't see, is the expectation that, why aren't you publicly liking this person? And maybe they're like,
why are
hold
you
up.
posting? Why you don't? The thing is, I mean, and that is for me where I've had to learn a lot of things, because in the beginning, right in the beginning, before Kiernan became, as well known as he is now, or right back then, every little thing would, I would be so careful of everything. But, you kind of adjust to how you deal with the stuff. And at some point, you kind of just, people are going to say things anyway. But behind the scenes, and there's this, you've got to a bubble of people, whether it's the friends of, but as a family, we've got a bubble of things that's happening, and a lot of those things never make it onto social media.
Yeah.
You know, we do not, sometimes it's by choice. You know, I could be with, let's say, having dinner with Bonang and Kiernan at his house. We might not post about that. There are certain things that we choose not to put out there. So, and then because it's not there, people assume automatically that, oh, she has no relationship with Bonang because it's all about Cynthia. No, you know, it's not like that. But each relationship is always different, and even the Bonang and Kiernan relationship, it was different. The dynamics were different because there was so much that actually fueled those dynamics. But for us as a family, it worked. You know, with the challenges, there's always challenges in even the most. There's nothing perfect, and this family is not perfect at all.
So, and I think it answers a lot of questions about relationships in general, because also, you know, your kids, your sons are evolving. They're also going to change along the way. They might, in a new relationship, be like, actually, Mom, I'm going to introduce you on the first date. Let's just get that out the way. Or they might say, I'm not trying to introduce you to anybody for 2 years. Even if you see on social media, I'm dating someone, don't ask, you know. So the person also evolves, and there is opportunity for them to also change how they feel. Or they might come back and say, actually, Mom, this time, you know. So those things will never be public knowledge. But another relationship, obviously, that was quite public, was the relationship between Keenan and Anele. And of course, may her soul rest in peace. Really, really a tragic story. And at some point, there were accusations. And again, it gets pushed back to, I mean, poor Zinke gets dragged into everything, you know, and she's such a good sport.
It's always her fault. Yeah, everything is her fault.
Yes. So how did you deal with, you know, a relationship where this time was not that high profile in terms of, you know, the person he was with was not also a public figure who has to manage whatever it is they are doing. And at some point there were rumors that, oh, was Lynn actually, you know, close to her? Because then it questions your values and principles. That why does it seem like your story is not consistent?
Yeah. Firstly, I must say to you, I'm actually kind of really grateful that you're asking this question. You know, in all of this time, and it's over a year now, there has been so many things out there. Nobody has actually ever come to me and said, can we interview you about this, or can we ask you about this? This is the first time somebody has actually asked me about this.
Wow.
And yeah, so
and maybe before you answer, tell me why it's important that somebody asked you. You know, why would that be important? Because a person might be thinking, well, it's not her relationship. Why should they ask her?
No. I'm specifically referring to the accusations. I mean,
yes. Recap accusations for us so that we know exactly. You know, obviously not everybody followed everything.
Yes. So, and again, you know, it's but also thank you for. I mean, I really firstly want to say it was a very difficult time, and it still really is, and I want to just also, you know, for Anele's family and for her soul to rest in peace. I just want to not make this into let's just have a discussion about Anele, because it's a very sensitive conversation that we're having. But for me, and this is not, you know, what I want to talk about is the fact that at that time there was this accusation, you know, there was the gender-based violence accusations, and there was this accusation directly at me from some anonymous person that said that, you know, Anele came to me for help, looking and seeking for help, and I brushed her off. I kind of brushed her aside. And that ended up in the newspapers, and it was the most unfounded, baseless accusation that I don't even know where it came from. And you know what, if I think back now, as much as I normally just let things kind of past. That for me was quite a hurtful thing because it ended up in the papers. It did affect my life quite severely, and I've never spoken about it. I've never been asked about it. But there was quite a bit of backlash for me on that because, I mean, when there's a gender-based violence accusation, you know, and you are kind of being pulled into that as an accomplice, if you want to call it that, because that's really what it comes down to. If she came to me and I brushed her off, if in any way, I mean, that makes me somebody that actually then was part of the whole thing. If
and
you know,
and condones
condone, that is the word I'm looking for. Now, let me answer you this, and I really want to state this very clearly today, that we all know, and I think most people do, I don't know if everybody here know, but I am a victim of childhood sexual abuse. I went through that as a child. So I have experienced, you know, sexual abuse, and that's gender-based, whether it's violent or not. The point is that is, you know, that
it
is
is violence. It is violence, yes.
Yeah, and that is something that I went through as a child. Now, my entire life, I have dealt with that, and at some point in my life, I started speaking out against that kind of thing, right? As like when Kara was born in 2015, it became such a big deal for me, and I've spoken out, I've had talks about it. That became my cause to give women a voice, you know, and to not hold all of this back and to speak out about the, you know, if they're going through any kind of violence or sexual abuse or anything like that. And it was just completely foreign to me to think that I could even be associated with condoning anything like that. And I'll tell you right now, it never happened. You know, if I had even the slightest inclination that any one of my children would be even remotely involved in physically abusing a woman, I would probably be the very first person to call them out or to even take them and hand them over to the police. That is how strongly I feel about this. So it was devastating for me, and you know, to kind of live with people thinking that is what you're about and knowing. But at some point, I guess you kind of feel, okay, well, the people that really know us, the people that are really on the inside and really are, you know, aware and are around us every day and understand where we are coming from and what we are about and what I am about as a mother. And I promise you, as much as I love my children and as much as I always will support them, there is no way that I would ever stand for any kind of nothing like that. It's just a completely foreign thing to me. And people who know me, and I guess that's what got me through, is that the people who know, you know, and yeah. So, but it was hard. And it is still hard, and it's just really, we're really coming through it now. And when it comes to Anele, you know, when Kenan introduced me to Anele, I can remember that day very well. I mean, we had the best times. Anele and I got along very well. And as much, again, you know, the anonymous people that went out there said that I never had time for, and people don't actually know. I mean, Anele's dad and I had lunch for hours. We spoke about the children, we spoke about Anele, and I mean, this is a conversation maybe for a complete
and this was obviously prior to her.
I cared so much.
This is obviously prior to her passing, that, you know,
absolutely
you
yes.
spoke, so you were in conversation. It was never like,
yes.
Oh no, this person is not going to get any of my time.
No, I mean, I cared so much about Anele and her well-being that I reached out to her dad and I asked him that we should meet and you know, try and help them, you know, and yeah, no, maybe this is not the right time for this, but
no,
I
get it, because obviously, like you said, yes, I think we got the gist of the fact that we were you were just making the point that you have been consistent in how you treat any of the women in your children's lives.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
the accusations just implied things about you that you don't feel are accurate. And yeah, so let's then fast forward
Unfounded, completely
yeah.
unfounded, you know? Yeah,
Yeah. So
baseless stuff.
let's fast forward to where we are now, which is,
Yeah.
you know, Keenan has a new person in his life, and you still have a great relationship with Zinke to the point that, you are developing a relationship with Asante as well. And it is still that continuing thing of like that narrative. Do you feel like, you know, there is some, I don't even know what the word is, but this thing will continue, that irrelevant of what happens, with Keenan's love life, it will always come back to that, which means he's got another woman in his life, he's with Nadia. Do you feel like the public will always have this perception of, oh, no one will ever be Zinke to Glammy?
They probably will, but you know what? That is not something that I can control. And I've learned, that certain things I can't control. All I can do is do what I am. I mean, I can just live and be the best person I can be. So, yes, I mean, Kenan and Nadia is quite new, but I mean, she's a lovely person, so she's going to get the same, from me, and she's probably going to get the same from Zinhle. Zinhle is the same kind of thing. Zinhle understands that, Zinhle, I think the reason Zinhle and I get along very well is Zinhle gets me in terms of how I feel about these things and what my aim is and why the children are important to me. And so Kenan, the kids will, did we lose the connection there? My children, so when it comes to these newer relationships, I mean, I can get into things very quickly. So I guess I kind of also just kind of try and, keep the boundaries in check, because my children do tell me sometimes, Mom, you do way too much. You need to not do so much. Because I guess I just get, I fall in love with these girls. I guess maybe it's because I never had girls, so I kind of fall in love with the girls.
I was going to ask you that. Is it like, are all the girlfriends that come into the family the daughters you never had?
I think so. And that's why my children always kind of put a halt in this. Mom, you're doing too much. Just stop. Like, this is still new. Just leave us alone,
Yes.
So I am learning still as well. I'm learning that I mustn't jump in with everything immediately. I need to give it some time to settle down. But I promise you, once I've met them, then it's a little bit hard for me, because now I'm all over them, and I shouldn't be, I guess.
But now, does it work the other way around? Like, obviously, all that the public sees is that Keenan's mom is always with Zinke, but does Keenan have the same relationship with Zinke's family?
I know. I don't think, I think, as you know, so for instance, let me give you an idea. I wouldn't say it's the same. I think it's different. Also, they're boys and they're different. But, I mean, if I take something like this past weekend, Cairo had a ballet performance on Friday night. I'm just giving you an example of how the dynamics are. So it's not the same, but Caro had a ballet performance on a recital on Friday night. Zinhle had tickets to the recital, and Zinhle couldn't make it because she had to go to Dubai. Then her sisters, two little girls, were going to come in her place with the 2 tickets. So I said, okay, well, they can come with me. But Karen and I were staying at Kenan's over the weekend, because that was his time with Caro. So normally when Caro stays with Kenan, I stay with her there. So we went to ballet, Kenan and Stephen and Brittany and the girls, Zinhle's sister's children. And then we came back, and I was going to come here, and Kenan was like, no, let them all come stay at my house. And he got pizzas, and we stayed over at Kenan's house. And the next day I took them to rollerblading, and then we came to stay at my house. So Kenan kind of, Kenan is not somebody that I would probably think these things through in my head, but Kenan it's not opposed to stuff. I mean, he loves children for one again, and I think that comes from it. Kenan is very accommodating when it comes to children. Kenan will, for instance, never be horrible to children. And I guess that is something that then comes from the teachings or from just watching me. I mean, Kenan has this love for children, and he will always be kind to them. So Zindi's sister's children stays over, and life goes on. And then, I mean, if you want to think of it in that way, we don't just do that. Obviously, Zindi's sister is very much aware, and the sister's husband is very much aware that the kids are staying with Kenan. So that shows that they're fine with it,
Yeah. And those are the parts that people don't see. So what I want to do, I literally broke my own charger before we got live, and I'm seeing my battery's on 8%, but I think it's going to carry us through.
Okay.
I want to know, just in terms of sharing with everybody, what are some of the principles that you think maybe we can carry, with us, because we never know what's going to happen in life. You might be married and you might lose your spouse, and then meet someone new who's got their own kids. You might be a single parent meeting with someone. What are those general principles? And I think you've mentioned one quite strongly, which is make it about the children.
Yeah. So for me, I think I believe keep it simple, So when it comes to this, all of the family stuff, for me, it's always about the youngest children. So Cairo, and obviously by default now Asante, because she is her sister, it's always for me about, and in Tony's case, his daughter Sarah, those are the youngest people in the family. And if we make it about them and we focus on them, everything else falls into place. Yeah. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that as I said to you earlier on, it's about, when you're doing things with good intention, it's always going to work out. It cannot go wrong if you're doing it with good intention. But I've also learned that, even good intention sometimes can be overstepped. So I am learning very slowly that as much as my intentions are good, I still need to maintain boundaries with certain things. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
especially because it's your children's lives as well.
It's their lives. It's not always my life, and it's not always about me and what I think is the best. And then one other thing that I really want to share is that I feel that, as a mother, and I want to talk to the moms or the potential future moms. You're a mom that's going to have an adult child at some point. And I think what is important for me is that, I know he's cute, isn't he? But I think what is important is that to never put your children in a situation, and especially when it comes, I mean, I've only had boys, so I can speak from a boy mom perspective, is to never put your son in a position where he feels he has to choose between his mother and his wife or his girlfriend. I think it's the worst thing you can do to a son, to your son, where he feels like, oh my gosh, because he loves his mother, but he also loves this other woman. And now you're putting him in a position of choosing. So if I ever have to put my children, and you can all hold me to this, if I ever have to put my children in a position of having to choose between me and a woman, I hope they choose the woman, because I wouldn't.
I was going to say, choose the woman. You've enjoyed your mom. She's a bit like she lived her life.
And
choose your woman.
And if I put my boys in that position of having to choose, then I don't deserve to be chosen.
Yeah. Oh man, that was so well said. Look, this was, I think, just so helpful in terms of the little gems that we could take out of this conversation. The other day we were speaking on my radio show about having to take children in unexpectedly because maybe your sibling has been arrested, or your child, somebody's child dies, and when that child comes into the home, they are loved equally. They're never going to feel like an outsider. even if they're a distant relative or a cousin. And I think that's what I take out of this conversation. You don't have to be part of a blended family to be able to take some of the gems that you share. And obviously, we love what you do. We love how you do it. And I hope, you know, much as we've spoken about the negative feedback, I hope the people who admire and love you, I mean, I'm looking at all the comments that are coming through. Beautiful conversation. My favorite granny, love your spirit. Amen. I love you, Lynn. Oh, Lynn, glowing. There's so many messages. So I hope we also just take a moment to recognize the people who are like, yes, there's negative criticism of perceptions, but the people are like, I think this is the future. This is what we should all be doing.
Yeah. Look, I mean, and on that, if I could just also leave a closing statement, I really want to thank people, because as much as we spoke about some of the negative things, it's been overwhelming how many people actually send me messages saying, Glammy, you have no idea how much we learn from you. And one day when I have a family, I want to do the same. And I want to say to them, it's possible, but there are always challenges. It's never perfect. It's never 100%. I'm not the perfect mom. I'm not the perfect. I mean, me and my boys have arguments all the time. We are just a normal family with normal problems.
And just to confirm, everything you and I spoke about today, because obviously we spoke about public figures, including your own child. These are not things that you would never say to their face.
Absolutely. Okay. And that's why, absolutely. I mean, the things that I'm sharing here, anybody that has been part or girlfriend, I'm sure that, I mean, I wouldn't say it on you. So all the people out there, doesn't matter which one it is, these are things that I would actually say to all of them.
Perfect.
And I'm sure they will agree with me.
Thank you for being our fairy glam mother to all of us, to just, you know, watch and admire some of the awesome things that you're doing. And I'm so glad that you were part of this conversation. To everybody that tuned in, thank you so much just for being interested. Obviously, big thank you to Batswadi Magazine for hosting these conversations. There'll be another one next week, same time at 7 p.m. Make sure you log in. Keep tuned, of course. If you're not following myself and Lynn, also follow us. You'll see Lynn has her parenting hat on and her grandparenting hat on. Yeah. I have my mommy hat on as well. And I think, you know, the bigger the community of sharing information, of operating from a place of love, the better. Thank you so much, guys. Lynn.
Thank you so much. It has been awesome. Thank you so much. Lots of love.
Bye, guys.